Hi, friend. Lisa McGuire here. Over the last few years, you've heard my conversations with leaders and creators who are redefining success on their own terms. This season of the podcast begins a little bit differently because today I'm the one in the guest chair. I've invited my friend and fellow storyteller Cheryl Tan, a professional journalist and former news anchor with a remarkable way of getting beneath the surface, to have a conversation with me. We'll be talking about what led me to reimagine how I do my work, why so many high performers who have done everything right still feel stuck, and how that realization is shaping the work that I'm doing in writing a book. This one goes deeper than where I usually go, and I think you're going to feel it. So join me and come behind the curtain for my conversation as we kick off season 5 of Your Passion, Purpose, and Personal Brand.
Lisa, I'm so excited to be on your show, getting the opportunity to interview you on your show and letting your listeners get more of a picture of who you are. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
Well, you are welcome, Cheryl. I'm very excited for this opportunity to have a professional journalist sit with the conversation. A little bit nervous about what you may ask because usually I'm on the other side of the microphone, but let's see where it goes.
I always say that it is hardest to actually sit there and answer the questions. It really is harder. It's much easier to ask the questions. And so I'll just start with a very easy one. For years, you've had the chance to help others find their voice, help them live authentically. You've been doing this for many, many years now. And today, being in the guest hot seat, how does that feel? How does that feel for you?
Cheryl, when I think about, I love giving other people the microphone, and I think it all goes back, like if I look at why that is for so many years, I didn't feel like I was permitted to have a voice. And so what I want to do is give other people the chance to say what really matters to them. So for me, this is, it's kind of a full circle moment.
I can see that. I can see that. And you're so good at that. What I want to do is delve more into your story to really let your listeners understand where you've come from. So you talked about not being able to really share who you were back when you were working. So give us a little sense of what your working world was like before you became your own boss, before you had your business.
Right. Well, I think, even before I started working, if I could go into where that even came from, I grew up in a time where women were told that we were to be seen and not heard, where our role in life was to serve others and we would be noble by doing so. And so that was kind of the environment that I grew up in, and it was the time that I grew up in. And I know there are many women today that carries on through into whatever they're doing. But one of my first roles was to work in a highly regulated industry, and that is the world of education. And in education, one of the very first jobs, I think I shared this story with you, when I was hired in my first teaching job at a high school in a rural small town in Ohio, I was told this was where I could go. This was what I could do. I've been in education jobs where I was told exactly what I could and could not wear. And also being in a position of influencing younger children and young adults who were in their formative years. Like, we were to be the example, to be held up. And so I really had to measure and watch every word and every action. So that's where that all started.
I can sort of see now how you took that beginning and how you are so focused on helping people say what they mean and be who they are meant to be. And that's really important to you, isn't it? And I can see that it started with your first career and you were told what to do every step of the way.
every step of the way. And I think the thing that I love so much about what I get to do now is I could see the glimpse, even from a child, even at 5 years old. One thing I did, one of my roles was to do kindergarten readiness testing. Like I could see the thing with 5 year olds, which 98% of them, Cheryl, I don't know if you're aware of this, when they test 5 year olds, 98% of them measure at the genius level for creativity.
Wow.
By the time we reach adulthood, we're down to 2%. So, what happens during that time?
Yeah.
We school out the creativity by making people fit into a box, by sitting people in rows, by giving them information and asking them to regurgitate it back out to us.
Yeah.
And when I get to this point where I saw those beautiful children coming in, no matter what age they were, and knowing the potential of what they have, that's a lot of why I do what I do today.
Mm-hmm. You said it about potential. And I feel like with the work that you've done, and I've worked with you as a client, is you work on potential. You see the potential in others and you try to help that client or the person you're talking with or a student understand that there is potential on the other side. And I think that's really important.
It's really important to me because I think a lot of times I want to say we're in a world where there is an unworthiness epidemic.
Mm.
I believe through the experiences we have, through the conditioning that we undergo, that a lot of times, again, we've got this beautiful power within us, and we quit believing that.
Yeah.
We don't know it. And so it's really important for me to hold space for people, to allow them to come with wherever they are, no matter where they are, and accept this is where you are today. But how can we peel back some of those layers? How can we unlock what I see in other people?
Mm. I want to go back to something you said to me when we were preparing for this call, is that you come from a family of entrepreneurs. You're not unused to dealing with the ups and downs of being in a business family. You're the third generation, right? Third generation business owner, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So, and your father was such a huge inspiration for you. So can you talk to us a little bit about him? Tell us stories about him and how his lessons are still with you today.
Sure. So, again, yes, third generation entrepreneur. My grandfather grew up or had a small general store. So this would have been I'll just say a long time ago, right? Where there were people, he would issue credit to them because they didn't have money to pay for the groceries. And so my father grew up in a family of many children, 7 or 8 kids. And his ticket out of that was to join the Army. So when he was in the Army, he learned how to pour concrete. He was in the Korean War, and he poured the airstrips for the planes to land. And so when he launched into his marriage, and the day I was born, he was working at Frigidaire on the factory line making refrigerators. Mm. And I think at that point he realized, oh gosh, I'm a dad now. I've got to do something. And that was the day he quit his job. I'm sure my mother really enjoyed that. But that was the day he quit his job and decided that he was going to start a company. And so he ended up working with someone, learning to pour concrete again, and ended up having a concrete company, a land development company. At one point, he liked bowling, so he built a bowling alley. He started this little bowling alley in a little town in the middle of nowhere in Ohio that when we sold it, paid for my college tuition. He had 5 to 6 different serial entrepreneur type things. And so, talking about what it was like to live in that family, I grew up in a blue collar area. So where other people, their parents would get up and go to a factory job or whatever job it was where it was secure, the paycheck was guaranteed to come in. That didn't happen in our family. I saw my mom, who was a partner in that business, was really the financial brains in the business, as far as making sure that if it's a construction industry, that in the winter that the business didn't come in quite as much because you couldn't pour concrete at a certain temperature during that time. But it was sometimes doing without. But the one thing that we never did without was education. The one thing that we never did without was having a book to read. And even when we were to the point where they did become more successful, all of our vacations, like when I look about it and I think about it with my sisters, they were always going to a national park or a monument or some type of educational thing. But that was embedded really deeply in me, the importance of learning. And the thing I saw with my father is if he didn't know something, he was going to figure it out. He was going to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time he said to me, I never worry about running out of money because I'll just go figure out how to make more.
I can hear that in your stories, right? The resilience,
Mm-hmm.
the pivoting, the finding the solution no matter what, because failure is not an option. I think
Not an
that's
option.
amazing.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I want to move now to your new book, which I don't know if you've told too many people about, but you were telling me that this is something that when you started your business, however many years ago, so how many years ago was that? But however many years ago, you said, I'm going to write a book, and now
Yeah.
it's here.
So I launched my business in 2018. And it was funny, within probably the first 2 months, I met with someone and they'd ask oh, you should write a book. I don't know. I must have said something profound.
Brilliant. Yes.
Who knows? And so I had coffee with a book coach and they asked me, what is your book about? I said, I have no idea. I just always have known I wanted to write a book. I never knew what it was about. Well, it's become increasingly clear of what I'm going to write about. And I'm going to write about the people that I see and work with every day. The working title of it is called Successfully Stuck. And Cheryl, what I think that really means is we are all given a script for what it means to be successful. And that definition can look different to different people, right? Like it might be a certain amount of money you need to have. It might be the ability to do something or to make something happen. It could be a feeling you have. But I think we all have this destination of what successful looks like. And we get to that point, or we're still on the road to that point, and we realize that we're stuck. We've done everything right. But what happens is we find that we're still being held back by fear. We're still being held back by the need to perform to where we can't really be ourselves. And so what I want to do is really peel back the curtain on how people get there and what to do to get out of it.
Good. I think people in hearing that, they're like, oh, I want to hear more. So I'm telling you, I want to hear more. What kinds of conversations are you having with people that made you say, at this point in time, this is the book that I want to write first? What are the conversations that you're having that you're seeing that? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think the thing that really became very clear to me was people had a dream and they didn't know how to get there. And they would follow the advice of the gurus. They would follow a formula. They would follow whatever framework it was, and they would get to a certain point and they couldn't move further. Well, it wasn't the lack of expertise. A lot of times it was the lack of belief in themselves. And I even said something to someone just a few days ago. We think a lot of what holds us back is mindset. But I would like to go even deeper in that. It's not mindset, it's our nervous system. It's our nervous system of how we are dysregulated to where we are misaligned, to where we are frozen and we can't move forward. So those are the things that I'm seeing as people who want more, but don't know how to get there.
Yeah. So that's where you've started, and I know the book is coming,
Yes.
are there solutions yet? Or is there anything you can give us so we can look forward to it as time goes on?
Yes. What's going on? I think the first thing, oh, yes, lots of solutions going on. I think the first thing is so there's a couple of things. One is developing the self awareness to realize that you have been performing and proving versus being yourself. All right. And what happens is that performance requires that we wear a mask. It's been really interesting as I work on this book, Cheryl, just some of the things that I find within our narratives, that I find within our world. And one of them was Jim Carrey did this movie, The Mask, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun just looking at how Hollywood and how our movies and how music, all of this gives us this information of this world that we live in, and this path that we follow, this journey that we're on, is that we have this mask. Now, the thing is do we want to take off the mask? That's scary for a lot of people.
Yeah.
One thing it would be is, if I really take off this mask, who am I going to be? Because all I know is this character I've been playing. Yeah. So there's a little bit of, just risk in that. If I take off the mask and I find that I'm somebody else, how will I navigate the world? Because the world knows me as this person. Will I lose my family? Will I lose my friends? But I think the thing that I'm finding right now is I have more and more people coming to me every day that are telling me things such as, I'm not excited to get out of bed anymore. I'm ready to burn my business down. I'm changing careers, but I don't want to do it because I don't know who I am. I'm looking for my purpose and I don't know how to begin to find it. So those are all clues to me that people need this, that they are stuck. And so I'm finding ways to help them do it. And one of the ways, you ask for solution, is I'm helping them go back and figure out who they really are. And so that's one of the very first things, is the self-awareness.
I feel like what you just said, all the things people are saying to you, I feel stuck. I want to burn my business down. I feel like I've heard different people say that to me, like in the last couple of weeks. So I feel like your book will serve so many people, so many people. But the second point I want to bring up is, you really love what you do, don't you? Like, you love this.
There is, yes. And, Cheryl, I can remember, this is a story I've told on several podcasts. I can remember being 10 years old, and I grew up again in the middle of nowhere in Ohio. And, my mom would say, go out and play, right? So I would be outside laying in the yard, looking up at the sky, watching the clouds blow by, and asking God the question, why am I here? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Okay, there's a reason for this. Tell me what it is. And I started then looking for, what is my purpose? What am I here to do? And, I did a little sidetrack, right? I did all the things we're supposed to do: go to school, get good grades, go career, all of that, do all of the things, family, children. And I want to say I loved all of that. But it was when I realized that, okay, I checked the box of following what I was supposed to do, but now I get to choose. And I can't wait to get out of bed in the morning. I don't like to go to bed at night because I love so much of life and what it brings to us. But I think one of the most important things that we don't really realize about people who are successfully stuck, it's not only the people that are still chasing their dream, but it's also the people who have already reached it.
Oh, very interesting.
Yes. So if you think about let's just paint a picture. What is success? And I'm going to use the one that many people use, because I'll hear someone and say, "Oh, did you see this person? They have a contract for $54 million or whatever." And the first thing that goes through my mind is, yes, but are they happy? Right? Because we have equated this dollar sign with money. So it might be that. It might be someone is looking at, fame, like they're a celebrity. Well, I've been in situations before and in some jobs where I have seen some of those people who
Mhm.
who have lines of people to get autographs, who have to sneak in or go in disguise. And I've had conversations with them, and I know that is not a life that everyone would want to have. So when you have this best-selling book, you have this dollar sign, you have the picture perfect of what you have, and realize that it was really a lie to be told that this is what will make you happy. What about those people? What
Mhm.
about those people of what comes next for them? And
Mhm.
that's one thing I want to help those people as well.
Right. It's thinking that what you see on social media, what you see, even maybe what you hear at church or you hear
Mhm.
at a family reunion or wherever you go, you hear the success of other people and you think, or maybe your family tells you what you should think, like, look what they're doing. You should be doing
Mhm.
this. And that colors your judgment. But then the reality is that right for you?
Mhm.
Is that what will actually make you happy? And I think that's something really interesting to think about, especially as you see on social media, strangers, friends, your closest people closest to you, the the world that looks
Mhm.
amazing, and then you realize that maybe it's not meant for everybody.
Well,
Maybe you understand that. Yeah.
yeah, not only not meant for everybody, but is it real what you see? Is it a
All
performance
of
that
it.
they're putting on, right? Right. Is
Very
that is
interesting.
that there? And I find that the people that are the happiest are the people who are so fulfilled because they can be who they are.
Mm,
There's not that should, would, could that we're told that we have to do. It's having the freedom and having the courage to be who you are, of the person that you were designed to be when you came.
Okay, so I had you tell me more about the conversations you're having with people who are maybe successfully stuck or on their way to becoming successfully stuck. Maybe they don't even know they're there yet. And if you've met people who are content and who have been able to find their true selves and are able to say who they are in public, what is that like? And how small a group is that you've been able to connect with, or how big?
You know, rather than counting the people,
Hmm.
um, I think the thing is, like, if I just look at one person, and I had a call earlier today before we even got on this call, not
Yeah.
even 15 minutes ago, where I spent a session with a client who, when we entered into it, she wasn't really sure what we were going to talk about. But I was able to share some things through some of the tools I use and really tell her the gold that she can bring to the world. I don't mean that monetarily, but
Yeah.
the gifts and the golds and the talent of what she already does. And some of the information I got from her, right? I was able to pull
Mhm.
from her, but I've used a lot of different tools. And at the end of the call, towards the end of the call, just the look on her face and the enormous gratitude of being seen
Mm.
and being heard and being celebrated for who she is and what she can do in the world, who she is, not only what she can do, but who she is.
Mhm.
There is no better feeling than that, Cheryl, for
Yeah.
people to be able to live in who they are, that energy of who they were created to be, and know this is why I'm here.
Mm.
Like, there's nothing better.
Oh, what a great story. And that's why you love what you do, right? That's why you bound
Mhm.
out of bed and are excited to speak to the people who you get to speak with.
Yeah, I look at my calendar in the day and I'm so excited of who I'm going to talk to. And there are even times, and this is going to sound a little weird, but I will be sitting in like those type of conversations, and there's almost a part of me that's up above looking down saying, you get to do this. Like,
Yeah.
this is so amazing. You get to do this. Not that you have
Yeah.
to do it, but it's truly a gift to be able to do it.
One of the things we talked about in our prep call, and I want to bring this up because sometimes the issue is not even what we think about ourselves. Sometimes it's what other people say to you, and maybe they love you.
Mhm.
They impose their feelings on you. Some of them are negative, some of their beliefs, whatever they are. And I was asking you if people ever say to you, because people say to me sometimes, like, why are you doing that? Like, can't you just let her like do what you want to do? Don't you want to retire? Don't you want to sit on the beach somewhere? And so what do you say when people say that to you? Like, isn't it time, like, and I'm sure people say that to a number of people just because that's what they want to do.
Mhm.
Isn't it time you slow down?
I love this question, Cheryl, because you know what the real question, you know what's really going on is I believe I am supposed to slow down. What am I not seeing that's causing you to keep going? Right. So it's the shoulds they've heard. I heard the story from someone who said the biggest mistake they made was moving into a retirement community before they were ready to retire. Because the common point of conversation is when are you going to retire? Now,
Mm-hmm.
what that is, and everyone has their own decision and their own right time. And if that's something you choose to do, more power to you. But I just know when you take what you believe you have been told you should do and project that onto other people to make yourself feel better about your decision, you're really handcuffing someone from the life that they could live. There is a book, and I know we've talked about this before, by Bronnie Ware called The Five Regrets of the Dying. And this goes back to a conversation and a story about my dad. Is I remember as he got a little bit older, he had an illness, and he fought the idea of getting older, and he would even say, "I'm never going to die." Right? Well, we know that we're human, even though I thought he was a god. We know that we're human, and I remember him thinking like he loved life so much that he didn't want to go, right? And so this book by Bronnie Ware, The Five Regrets of the Dying, the top regret of the dying, and she was a palliative care nurse for
Mm-hmm.
3 years. So over that time, she would talk to these patients who were in their final months, in their final days of life. And the number one regret that they had was I didn't have the courage to live the life I wanted and instead live the life that someone else wanted me to live. I'm paraphrasing it there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought that is not where I'm going to be. That will not be my top regret. My top regret will not be I wish I had the courage. I am going to live the life I want to live, and I get to choose. And if someone else has an opinion on how they think I should live, that is their opinion. It is not mine. And so go for it. But I'm going to live my own life, and I'm going to empower you to live yours.
What I think is so cool is you are living your life. You're doing what can only I can only say is an inspiration to others, but it's also an inspiration, I imagine, to your immediate family, your children, and then your grandchildren. I know you're a grandmother as well.
Mhm.
Have they said anything? Did they say they watch or listen? What have they said?
Well, I'm probably not like most moms, right? Of the, we all love our children, or we do love our children. I don't want to say we all do, but we do.
But yeah, yeah. Sometimes we don't like them, but yeah, yes, we
Right,
do.
right, right. But I think the biggest gift I could give my children is the power to be themselves, is the power to have a choice to be themselves. And so I've been able to see the seeds that I've planted within my children to do it. And I think people know, one thing they'll say is, "Are you working again?" Right. And I think this comes from the narrative of our society that if you're doing something that will earn you money, that is to be work. And work is a four-letter word, and work is not something that you are supposed to like. But I like to take the word work and throw it out the window and replace it with the word create. What
Mm.
is it that we're creating in the world? And so for my children, they know that they're actually the reason why I structured my business the way I do. For my grandchildren, it's why I structured my business the way I do. When I left my previous role before I started my company, I could have gone to work somewhere else, but that would not have been inspiring. I wanted to design what I call a lifestyle design business where I chose who I get to work with, when I work, what I do. And I've been able to do that. And that allows me to have time to go do things with my family, to rearrange my schedule to do that. So they know they are a priority, but they also get to see me. And now I get to watch them take their gifts and talents and bring it into something where they get to do work that they really bring their best to.
Can you describe your business? I think maybe people don't understand, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they want to know further.
Yes.
If you are so excited to get up and do your work,
Mm-hmm.
create, what that looks like.
So you want to know business structure, or what is it I
Yeah.
actually offer?
A little bit of both,
Okay.
because I feel like maybe they don't understand. And we've talked about this, so I do know
Mm-hmm.
the answer. Is it, do you have teams that you manage? Are you going into an office every day?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd love to hear from your perspective what your workday looks like and what that really entails.
Yeah. So I typically start my day at, as far as actual work, at 9 or 10 in the morning, right? And so prep work before might be doing some type of reading or maybe interacting with people on LinkedIn. I guess you could call that part of the work, right? Like building my network and building brand awareness with influence with that. But sometimes it might be starting a little bit later, taking my dog on a walk in the morning, right? To get out in nature. I love just walking and hearing the birds and just getting a little bit of exercise there. Might be sitting with a cup of tea. It could be having a call with someone. So that's how I usually start my morning. I do have a morning practice where I do some kind of recalibration and grounding of who I am, but not only who I am now, but who is that future self. Spend some time in that. That's really important. And then my days will be client calls, or it will be networking or doing some client work. But one thing I do, Cheryl, is I work on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday till noon. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon, I'll work Thursday morning as well. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon, I pick up my grandkids from preschool and we get to play. And, last week we went to the park and took a little bucket and picked up treasures. Um, we made some homemade wrapping paper because their mom had a birthday coming up. So I'm doing the things where I get to enjoy the children the second time around, whereas as a mother, I didn't have that time. So I've got time for that. And then, on Fridays, it's a lot of working on my business, going to breakfast with people, just having calls. I get to change it up the way I want. So that lifestyle design business is really important. I get to travel.
Mhm.
So I get to make my own schedule with that.
Well, you speak on stage, you have your
I
own
do.
show.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking earlier, you intentionally designed it so you aren't managing a million people on a
No.
team, for
Yeah.
example. It
Mm-hmm.
is you in charge of you, essentially. And
Yes.
as I think about it, you started in education and you're still in education, but
Mm-hmm.
now without the rules. that you had imposed on you before.
Yeah, that's really true. I get to make the rules. I get to choose who I work with. I get to choose what I do. I intentionally decided not to build a team. Been there, done that, right? I don't ever want to be responsible for someone else feeding their children. I don't want that responsibility. I would rather empower people to be able to go out and make the life that they want and do it that way. Now, do I have a team of people I work with? Yes, absolutely. I work with contractors. And you know how I got into this, Cheryl, is I was doing a lot of marketing strategy, copywriting, helping people with the words that they needed to say to express themselves. But what I found is when it came time for people to tell me how they were different than others, they didn't know. They didn't know. There was a call I had with a client one time when I said, "What is it that you really want?" And this is a true story. They put their head down and you could see them thinking, and they uttered under their breath, "What am I supposed to want?"
Mm.
And that statement of what am I supposed to want? Look at what that says. Like they didn't have the feeling that they could choose. They're trying to follow all of this that they were supposed to. So that's where I started going on this really mission to help people figure out who they are, to bring the humanity back to business where we can connect authentically, where we are not performing, we are not proving ourselves. There is space in between where we can show up and relate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we do.
Big believer in these conversations where you have the opportunity to really hear what people are thinking. It's not AI. It's not something you're putting into a large language model.
No.
It's really like what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and how you're connecting. And you're so good at that. So as we wrap up, I wanted to just give you an opportunity to talk to your audience, talk to your listeners and viewers, and give someone who's feeling not right. Something is just off. They don't feel like they're doing the work they're meant to be doing. They're feeling stuck. Maybe they're successfully stuck, even though they didn't know what that was until we talked about it today. What would you tell them? What do you want them to know? How do you want them to think as they wait for the release of your new book?
No pressure to get that done, is there?
Right. No pressure.
What I would like you to do is to really think about, we are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. We have spent most of our life listening to the stories that other people have told us that have translated into these stories that we tell ourselves. And, you know, I always say there's the stories we tell the world. That's what we want other people to know about us. There's the stories we tell ourselves that we would not dare let other people know what's going on inside of our head. And there's the story buried inside of our soul. And that is the story of who you came here to be. That story still exists. And that future self is waiting for you to come. And how you begin to find that is take time to pause and take a look back in your life on the things that you've done, the jobs you've had, the experiences you've had that have brought you joy, and start recording those. Start recording those and start looking for a thread of commonality of what did you bring? What did you believe in? What do you stand for and what do you not stand for? And that's going to start giving you the clues of how to find that release, to not reinvent yourself, but to reclaim yourself.
Beautiful. And so when can people expect your new book, Successfully Stuck?
All right. So we're recording this, Cheryl, here at November 2025, right?
Yep.
It is my goal to hopefully have it out. No, I'm going to say it this way. The book will be out a year from now. All right. So it's still I'm at the end of my research phase into my writing phase, but I've got some really good trajectory on that, some really good momentum. I'm excited to get it out. And I think the whole thing is the writing process has really brought me closer to my audience as I think of that one person out there, just one person that is going to read this, that it's going to help them feel seen.
Absolutely. Because if you think about it, this book is just a conversation with your audience, just like this show that you have, your podcast is a conversation with that audience. And so I would say you're on LinkedIn. People can find you on LinkedIn. They can have that conversation with you through your posts. They can probably email you and you'll respond. Though there are many places to have that conversation and to help you get clarity as you put together this book that will be out right around this time next year.
Yes, and I would like to say I will be on LinkedIn. I am still like the book is not gelled. It is still I'm still making the recipe right now. And those conversations are going to shape what that book looks like. So I encourage you, follow me on LinkedIn, comment on the post. I am listening, and your voice matters.
Definitely. Lisa, thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of your program about being part of the launch of this new book. It's been an honor to hang out with you and to hear more of the things that you have to say.
All right. Thanks so much, Cheryl. It's been a pleasure. If you made it this far, you've made it to the end, and I'd like to thank you for that. As we begin season 5 of your passion, purpose, and personal brand, I want you to know, if you took nothing away from this episode, is I want to hear from you. Your voice matters. I want to know, how do you define the word success? How do you know if someone is successfully stuck? How do you identify that? So if you'd like to continue the conversation, I invite you to do so. Follow me on LinkedIn, comment on my post, connect with me in the DMs, or even send me an email and tell me your story. Because those stories are what will inform this conversation, what will mold and shape this into this book that I'm creating to really help people who find themselves in a place where they want to live out their dreams, but they don't know how to get there. So until next episode, go chase your passion. Lean into your purpose. It will reveal itself, and it will take you on the road to finding your legendary self. We'll see you here next week.